Following the Russian invasion of Ukraine in late February, many NATO members, including the US, Germany, and Poland, have pledged support in the form of money.
$800 million.
600 Danish crowns.
300 million pounds.
And weapons.
Canada will be sending heavy artillery.
And in addition to aid, some in the Western military alliance are also boosting their own defenses.
Germany pulled out all the stops. They're buying heavy cargo military helicopters. They're going to modernize the armed forces across the board.
Those immediately bordering Ukraine, I'm thinking Romania here and Poland as well. They're talking about tanks. They're talking very specifically about anti-missile systems.
So, as Russia unleashes new threats, raising concerns that the war could escalate outside of Ukraine, here's how some NATO countries are looking to upgrade their military capabilities. One major step to strengthen the West's ability to deter Moscow was announced by Germany. Chancellor Olaf Scholz said the country would boost military spending above 2% of GDP and invest the equivalent of $113 billion in weaponry. This graph illustrates that spike in Germany's defense spending.
They're buying F-35s. That's the most modern jet fighter warplane produced by the United States, and many, if not most, of the NATO members are using it at the moment.
The aircraft is popular with NATO countries because of its ability to evade radar detection. Its aligned edges contribute to that ability. It can also carry weapons internally or externally, including long-range precision missiles, depending on the environment. It can reach a speed of Mach 1.6 and has an extended range of more than 1,350 miles with internal fuel. The F-35s will replace aging Tornado aircraft in Germany's arsenal. Many countries in Western Europe, including Germany, reduced their military capabilities after the Cold War.
I think lessons learned from Ukraine and the invasion was that countries are now looking at where to strategically stockpile weapons and ensuring that they have the correct capabilities for the threat.
As countries such as Germany shift their defense priorities, in the east of Europe, nations have been preparing for a potential conflict for longer.
For many decades, for years, the eastern flank of NATO, countries like Poland, countries like Estonia or Lithuania and the Baltics have been acutely aware of the aggression potential of Vladimir Putin's regime, and they have been warning their Western peers.
Analysts say they've seen Poland's defense budget sustain growth over the last 8 years, following Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. Prior to the latest invasion of Ukraine, Warsaw began negotiations to buy 250 Abrams tanks and other military vehicles. In the wake of the war, Poland signed a $4.75 billion deal and wants to accelerate the delivery of the weapons.
They have big advantages over the aging Soviet-built tanks that Poland already operates. The most important being is that they're less vulnerable.
The Abrams M1A2 SCP-V3 is a modernized version of the Abrams main battle tank. It's fitted with armor on its hull and turret designed to protect against threats from explosives. The tank can be hinged with reactive armor and slat armor, and it can be fitted with a signal jammer to counter radio-activated IEDs.
You've seen huge tank losses by Russian forces in Ukraine. The Abrams is just a different design, and very simply, it's less vulnerable to the kind of anti-tank weapons you've seen deployed by Ukrainian forces.
In addition to spending on new tanks, Poland is sending some of its older T-72 models to Ukraine, which has been requesting weapons assistance since the war began in late February.
Ultimately, countries can only donate what would still enable them to have the spectrum of capabilities that they need for their own security.
Analysts say countries such as Poland are using new spending proposals to enhance their military capabilities while sending older stock to Kyiv.
If there wasn't that commensurate increase in spending, then the donations would potentially create a gap.
As some nations try to bolster defenses and increase military budgets amid the Ukraine conflict, the U.S. weapons industry could benefit.
The U.S. is by far the biggest spender in weapons in the world and also the biggest exporter. So it's to be expected that a lot of the arms being talked about by European countries will come from there.
But supply chain issues have made it difficult for some U.S. companies to keep up with demand, and larger weapons could take years to be delivered, in part because of lengthy contract negotiations.
with this uptick in spending that we're seeing in a few countries, faster way of achieving more sort of lethal capability is through weapons and enhancements and upgrades to existing platforms.